Yes, I would like to briefly give you some examples of the rhetorical devices that are included in your materials to make these rhetorical devices come to life for you, and also to encourage you to think about these devices and how you could possibly incorporate them in your own presentation. Let us begin with the powerful opening statement. This could be an anecdote, this could be a real life problem, or it could be an amazing fact. I remember from college an amazing fact in one of the presentations by one of our professors who was talking about the United Nations. And he started by outlining all of the duties of the United Nations. Today I'm going to talk about the United Nations. And as you know, the United Nations perform peacekeeping. The United Nations provide aid. The United Nations do this. The United Nations do that. And so on. And the question was, how are the United Nations supposed to do all of this on a budget that is smaller than that of the fire department of Tokyo? So this question got us going, and I remember this presentation going back many years. This was an amazing fact that stuck in my mind. Maybe you also have an amazing fact that you can incorporate in your presentation. It could also be something along the lines of there have been numerous plane crashes, and sometimes a plane crashed and many people died simply because of one bolt that was wrongly aligned that cost less than $1 or $2. Yeah, this bolt was faulty, and that caused the plane to crash and many people to die. That would be another example of an amazing fact. Moving on to number 2, a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is simply an open question that gets people to think. And when I think of a rhetorical question, one person that used rhetorical questions effectively in history was Lenin. Lenin, at the time when Russia was going through a very difficult period in its history, simply asked people, we don't have enough food to eat, we don't have this, we don't have that, what is to be done? He gave, of course, his own answer to this particular problem, but he got people thinking, and it worked effectively for him. So if you have a question that you could ask, a good question, questions are always good to include in your presentations. Let us move on to a dramatic contrast or antitheses. There are a number of good examples that I could think of that you are probably familiar with from your own experience. Let me ask you if you remember what Armstrong said when he landed on the moon. It's a small step for me, but a big step for mankind, or for humankind. This is a good example of dramatic contrast. Perhaps you can also think of one for your presentations. Moving on to number 4, the power of 3. 3 really is a magical number, and I myself became aware of how important this number is through one of my hobbies, which is collecting political posters. And as I collected these political posters, one day I realized that every revolution in the world has always been conducted under the banner of 3. Whether it was the American Revolution, power of the people, power by the people, power for the people. Whether it was the French Revolution, liberté, égalité, fraternité. Whether it was the German Revolution of 1848, Einigkeit, Recht, Freiheit, or unity, law, and freedom, whether it was the Russian Revolution of 1917, land, peace, bread. You see, 3 things work. Every revolution also in your country probably was conducted under the banner of 3. 3 things are easy to remember, 4 is too complicated. Land, peace, bread works. Land, peace, bread, and vodka is too much. So if you have three things, remember that three is always something powerful to present. And moving on to the next point, which is number 5, machine gunning. If you have a number of different benefits or points to offer, you could present them in rapid succession and then put the most important one at the very end. Say, for example, that I wanted to convince you of a vegetarian diet. I'm not a vegetarian myself, I have to confess, but I believe that there is a strong case to be made for vegetarianism. And basically, we could group all of these points in favor of vegetarianism by saying a vegetarian diet brings a number of physical benefits, shows concern for animals, it's better for the environment, it's more sustainable, it's better for global food supply, and it's healthier. In this case, I've decided that health is the most important benefit, so I've put that at the very end. Maybe if I thought that my audience were a particularly empathetic group of people that were concerned about animals, I would put that at the very end. Yes, repetition. Moving on to number 6, the art of repetition is to repeat yourself without using the same words. So if you have an important message, you might want to repeat this message throughout your presentation, but you don't want to at least 2 or 3 times for the audience to retain it, but you don't want to say it in exactly the same words. Build up is a simple summary. Maybe to go back to our presentation on vegetarianism, I could simply say, vegetarianism is better for you and for the environment. This would be a simple summary. Appealing to authority, emotion, logic. Yes, if you have expert opinions to present, so maybe in the case of vegetarianism, the World Health Organization has found this, or some other organization or some other expert, you could include those. Visualization. Using a picture or creating one in the mind of your audience. In the case of vegetarianism, to stick with this particular example, I could simply say, imagine a world depleted of resources, because we are at the moment on a path that is not sustainable. We have a lot of environmental problems. Our forests are being eroded, and so on. And so I could use this as an example for visualization. And finally, a simplification, cutting all words except the most important ones. At the very end of my presentation, for example, I could say, vegetarianism, better for all.